For those of you that are joining us for the first time, my name is Grace Van Hollebeck. I'm the head of marketing here at Tern, and I'm going to be sharing a brief overview into what the Tern platform is, who we are as a company, and how you might want to potentially work with us if you're not already. One of the things I love doing as part of this live demo is making sure that I answer your questions. So at the end, I'm going to be making sure that I answer as many questions as possible. I typically reserve the last 10 to 15 minutes of this session specifically to answer Q&A. So I'm going to get started by just doing a brief overview and a demo of the platform so you can get a nice overview and instruction to Tern. And then, of course, if you have questions, feel free to send them while I'm presenting so I can get them afterwards and you don't forget. Or if it's something that I see that's relevant, I can maybe just show it in real time. So thank you all so much for joining, and we're just going to get this show rolling. To kick things off, I love to usually start with just sharing a little bit more about Tern as a company. I feel like it's really hard for anyone to choose a business or tech partner that they're going to work with without actually having any understanding as to like who this partner is that I'm choosing to work with and choosing to go into business with, essentially. So for those of you who are considering Tern, the first thing that you need to know about us is that we were built by an amazing founding team who is really focused in this industry to make sure that they're bringing the best technology possible. It's a group of technologists who started the platform, joined by now an incredible team of folks with experience across this industry, many others, but really the core of why our product's so incredible is because of their deep understanding of how to get to the root of technology and what makes it easy for people to use, how to make it scalable and usable for many years to come. And that's really one of the tenets as to why I'm so passionate about this business and the team building it. But also, the important part of their story and the founding team and those that have built Tern is actually how the business, theoretically came about. When David and Katie and Brian, our co-founders, were first exploring the idea of Tern, they were really thinking about, well, wow, it takes so many systems, so many tools for advisors to just do their day-to-day job. You're working with an advisor who has an itinerary tool. It takes a ton of time to get back to them because you're quoting and booking things with many different partners. You guys know this, I don't need to share this with you, but you're dealing with multiple platforms. And we've typically found most advisors that switch to Tern are coming from anywhere from like 4 to 6 platforms before they switch to all-in-one at Tern. Those platforms can include itinerary tools, CRMs, back office systems, how you're getting paid your commissions. It might also include your calendar tools, email tools, you name it. So there's a lot of different systems that you might currently be using that we hope to also consolidate for you. But the reason why we're so passionate about that and our broader philosophy now we're getting a little philosophical here, but the broader philosophy behind this is actually has nothing to do with kind of why they started the business. And instead everything to do with where they really took that idea of too many systems and how it's now applying today. And the team has really started to understand that the only way to get a truly all-in-one system is if it's fully vertically integrated, meaning that you do not need to copy and paste information in your system at all. Meaning that when a client reaches out to you and they fill out a form, you should never, ever have to fill out that information again, whether it's from building the itinerary itself, sharing that information with suppliers through credit card authorizations, or even just making sure that you're staying up to date on your automations and workflows and wishing them happy birthday. So we have taken great care in making sure that the entire experience that you have across the Tern platform is fully integrated, that it doesn't require an endless admin work. And that's our broader tagline here at Tern. The goal is to stop invisible work or end invisible work. And we really believe that that process of copying and pasting information from suppliers, from your clients to other future suppliers, that it's just an incredibly A, manual process, but also B, manual and time consuming, but also B, it leaves a lot of room for error as well. So as I kind of show you the system, that I want you to kind of keep that in the back of your mind, that the way Tern is built is not necessarily for you to think about in terms of like, oh, they have an itinerary tool over here, they have a CRM over here, they have a calendar tool over here. Yes, you can break out our system that way and you could think about it that way, but you won't get the true benefit of Tern and why people switch to us if you use it necessarily just for one piece of it. You'll really get the true benefit and it'll start being exponentially more useful the more and deeper you use it. So hopefully that's a useful introduction. Now, what does that actually mean in practice? Well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to share my screen here and just get you introduced to what the Tern platform actually looks like. Again, this is a brief overview and demo. We're not going to be going super in depth here. There's many opportunities, and I can share resources with you after to go even more in depth. But some of the important things to point out here, this is the trip dashboard that you see when you log into Tern. And it's really your hub or your ecosystem for any of the trips that you have working on or in planning, or even some that are booked here within Tern. You'll notice that it's kind of set up like a Trello board if you're familiar. It has the different columns, and all of the columns are actually titled based on the stage of where that trip is at. So you'll see we have inbound trips, planning trips, booked, etc. And those are really segmented out based on the status of your trip and where it's at. Of course, you can adjust and edit that, but we highly recommend it because we found it to be super useful, especially when you start doing things like this, where you start dragging and dropping itineraries to adjust what stage that trip is at in your booking process with or working with a client. It's that client flow. The reason why that drag and drop is something not just fun to watch and fun to look at, it's also tied to multiple things on the back end if you set it up that way. You could set up workflows and automations that anytime you're moving someone from a different stage or specific stages, it can trigger emails to clients, for example, asking for their passport information. Or if someone is traveling and you just moved them over to traveled, you can make sure it triggers an email saying, "How was your trip? Would love to get your feedback," or make sure you fill out this Google review. So there's multiple different steps that you can take to really help automate a lot of your day-to-day in the business. So if you're thinking about how many client touch points that you might have, how many times you have to reach out and collect their info, how many times you might need to set reminders and tasks for yourself. My favorite is the task automations that you can set up. So like if you're going from planning to booked, maybe you need to make sure that you're also setting up a final payment reminder. And those different types of steps are all can be automated throughout the turn process. So that is one of the benefits of using this tool. Now, I'll just click into a trip and actually show you what it looks like because I'm pretty sure that's what most of you here want to see. When I click into a trip, this is one that's in the process of being built and being worked on. And one of the things that I love to share is that when a client comes into your business saying, "Hey, I want to work with you," they could do that in a couple different ways. Of course, they can email or call you. Maybe you've been working with them for 20 years, no problem. But if there's someone that's new and maybe they came to your website or your social media account or they emailed you and they want to work with you can send them a link or you can link our form to your website. And if they fill out that form, it'll collect their info and let you know that you have a new lead in your pipeline, meaning it'll add it to that lead column. And you now know that you have a trip that's pending as an inbound trip that you can work on and start thinking about with your clients. If they fill out that form, it'll also automatically attach here into the travelers section of this itinerary that it started building for you. This information, of course, links back to and is fully integrated in our CRM part of the platform. So all of this information is pulling directly from that CRM, given that now, since they filled out that form, it's already showing up in your CRM. This is generally just like at the dashboard for the trip. It's kind of this ecosystem, this hub. But when we thought about the itinerary part of this platform, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't just for you to create the itinerary and send it off to a client. That's helpful, but there's so many different other ways that you can really help leverage your business to the next level. And so we took it a step further. To orient you a little bit, you have that traveler info I talked about. You've got your different settings and sharing and collaboration tools here on the right-hand side. All of the different bookings will be always kept in a status report up here, as well as any activity that's been done, both from your end and from the client's activity end. So if they've made a payment or if they've, payments due, you'll be able to see all of the activity here on the dashboard. On the left-hand side, you'll also see that there's a lot of different levers for you to manage what's going on in the trip. But what I love to point out is, of course, the itinerary building tool, and that's what you'd be using to share your itinerary with clients. To show you what it looks like of the actual end use stage to what it would look like to a client. Again, when I created this itinerary, it was fairly simple. All I did was drag an item from our cruise library. And our cruise library has almost every single cruise out there. Similarly with our hotel library, of course, there's some one-offs, but there's thousands of cruises and hotels that are available for you to add immediately. And when I dragged over that cruise that I added here, these sea fjords and mountains, it pulled in automatically this header photo, all of the details about the ship, where we're going. So you can kind of click in. I didn't find this YouTube video about the voyage that we're going on. It was already available for me to use. Of course, this is all editable, but we pull all of this in for you and including deck plans, you name it. So really useful content to pull in here. Same with the images from the actual ships itself. So you'll always get those updated and beautiful images, and even the port details as well. And the same is true for hotels. So we really make that easy. Of course, when you're building the itinerary, you can also use items from your library. So we have the ability for you to create any library items and your suppliers. So it's really easy for you to drag and drop suppliers that you know you're working with a lot. One last tiny little thing I want to point out in the top right hand corner here is this AI assist tool. And this is actually where you see so much leverage into using our platform. Let's say you have an itinerary that a supplier made and they sent it to you over a PDF or on a different itinerary platform and you want to put it in here. Maybe it's a tour activity from a website and you just want to click Command A and copy all of the words that are on that page. You can copy and paste a URL, any of the text from a tour or an activity page, for example, or a hotel page. Add that in here to the AI Assist. You can even upload them as files and hit submit, and it'll add the details from what it is you're importing into the itinerary. And it'll do it in a smart way. So if you're bringing in a tour or activity, for example, or an itinerary even from a supplier, it'll parse through all of that and add that into the itinerary for you. Some pretty cool stuff. So this is the itinerary view that I mentioned earlier, and while we could go through the full itinerary in detail for fun forever, I want to make sure that you see one of the most important parts of our itinerary tool, and that's the fact that we help you make you more money. How do we do that? How do we make you more money with our itineraries? Well, we make them dynamic, which means when you're sending an itinerary to a client, it is not one and done where you're sending this file that cannot be updated. Even the fact that it's just a link, sure, that's helpful. But what about the fact that when a client sees this, they want to probably make some selections or give feedback, or maybe you wanted to give the ability to opt into something, but you don't want to necessarily push it on them to accept it because they don't even know it's coming yet. Well, here in the itinerary, you have this dynamic optionality. You'll see here this button that gives them their next step of what the client is going to be doing next. And I can click and make choices throughout my itinerary. You'll see I have two different room options. You can edit and adjust what information shows up in here. But let's say I, as a client, want the panoramic mini suite. But as I look through the details more, I find, you know what? The lighthouse isn't that much more expensive, but it's beautiful. Let me actually select the lighthouse instead. And now you've just upsold your client. First of all, with no friction at all. It's an incredibly slick and seamless experience, but also it reduced any need to go back and forth. And as all of you know, time kills deals, right? And time kills trips. And so the quicker we can help them make a decision, get it back to you, the quicker we can actually make sure that you're closing on these trips that you're hoping to sell to your clients. And you're also doing it in a way that's not pushy. You're not having to figure out how to write this or communicate this over email. You're just giving it as an option and they can choose no harm, no foul of what they prefer. While this is available not only for the rooms, you can also do this for optional add-ons, meaning you can say, I know we have this whole cruise planned, but in case while you're docked in Bermuda, you'd like to go on this rum tasting, I threw it in as a tour activity as an optional add-on. And you can choose to say, yes, I want to add this to my trip, or no, I'm good, I don't need this. That optionality is found throughout our platform and it's incredibly useful for you, especially as you're considering how do I make more money throughout Tern. We really focus on that here in the itinerary piece. And the last step of this, user or workflow that you might have here is that once a client submits their selection, if you've set it up for credit card authorization, or you've asked if they want to also opt into insurance, all of that would happen in these stages. So let's say I set it up to receive credit card authorization. I would then be taken as a client to the authorization page, and then I'd be done. I'd have authorized my payment. It took one link, one email to me, and now I've already approved my entire itinerary, given my credit card information, or I've just given authorization if it's already on file, and I'm ready to go. So it's a really seamless experience, especially for your clients. Of course, there's a mobile app as well that I think is best in the market. And we have a million other tools here in the Tern platform, but that is really just a brief overview as to what is so beneficial and useful about the end-to-end flow in Tern.